My name's Dave and I'm a collaboration junkie, and today we're going to look at mastering the partnership dance. I want to start with a few key stats for you. And here we go. So first off, there we go. Referrals create 65% of all new business opportunities. 78% of B2B referrals create viable customer leads for the business being referred. And what on top of that, referred customers have a 37% higher retention rate, which is pretty impressive stats. And if you're in a more of a B2C environment, well, you only have to look at some of the channels there and the success that they've had in leveraging partnerships to see why this is such an important channel. However, in fact, it's probably the oldest form of marketing out there. But so many people don't look at referrals and partnerships in a strategic manner. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure whether it's that it's not trendy enough these days, or that there's more modern forms. But if we actually look at this in a really strategic way, and those stats from that first slide can actually be increased massively. And so that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at how you can use partnerships and referrals to bring high quality leads into your business on a consistent, scalable, repeatable manner.
Dave, just to let you know that we can see it as double, not just the whole slide. So we can see your the presentation at the bottom.
Ah, right. Sorry. Right, there we go. Thanks. That's what I meant. How about now?
There we go.
Right. That's the one. Thank you. Right. Cheers, Gary. Thank you. Okay. So first up, for those of you, I know I've had the pleasure of many of yours company before, but for those of you that that I haven't met before, a little bit about me and why I've got the why you should be talking to me. So other than being a pretty cute toddler, if I do say so myself, I used to run a membership organization, and we grew that to a couple of thousand members almost entirely through either through referrals or strategic partners. So I've grown my own business in this way. And we were but I've worked with global brands like Regis, Volvo, Mercer Marsh, Yale, delivering 10,000 leads to them. So most of my experience have been on the side of the coin of actually providing leads to people. Reached almost 1 million business owners through partnership channels. So I know a thing about providing leads. But in amongst that success, I've also either made, or more importantly, witnessed so many mistakes along the way, and how everything that I do in supporting others to implement these partnership proposals, people like Ollie, has been based on both the successes I've had, but more importantly, it's been about when I was responsible for providing leads and providing profiles to others, what were the things that meant I was unable to do what they wanted me to do. And what I now do is piece that together for people so that they can actually have the best chance of getting their partnership strategy right first time. Okay, so that's a little bit about me. So who are partnerships for? Like, who can really benefit from a valuable partnership program? Well, first up, it's great if you're highly credible. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean bags of experience. It can mean a really clear problem that you're solving. It can mean the team. But key in partnerships and forming partnerships is trust. And so the more credible you can position yourself as, the more likely are you to be able to engage with partners quickly. It helps if you've got a service-led offering. Now, what I mean by that is it doesn't necessarily mean that you're delivering a service. You can absolutely have a product-based business like you, Kelly, but it's where there's actually a level of service that sits behind that. There's something more than just buy and go, whether that's the service you deliver around it, whether that's the mission or the purpose. There needs to be something that's going to differentiate you between someone else that's speaking to your partner. Strong values. Strong values, again, I'm going to come back to that trust point. Strong values, if you've got strong values, that's another ideal scenario to have within a partnership, with a partner approach, because it enables you to connect quicker. Exceptional service. So this kind of goes without saying. We all like to think that we offer a really high level of service. But when you're working in partnership, someone else is trusting their customer relationships in your hands. And so it's really important that level of service is high. You need to be excited to grow. I'm it's a bit of an obvious one here, but actually what you don't want to do is be working in partnership and then ask someone to slow down, because actually you've kind of reached your capacity. So you need to be able to have that volume there. And it should be fun as well, right? Working collaboratively is a fun thing to do. So that wanting to engage and work with others needs to kind of be something that you're excited and you're interested in. So why should we be looking to do it? Why should we be looking to do it, particularly when we're kind of focusing on a growth strategy? Just as a quick aside, by the way, Ollie, I can't see the chat. I know you're pretty good at mentioning it. So if anyone's, feel free to ask questions as we go. There'll be plenty of time at the end as well. But Ollie, if you could monitor the chat and give me a shout if anyone's got anything, that would be great. Right. So where do I see partnerships fitting in terms of sales and marketing strategy? I am sure kind of we're all aware of these different kind of forms of marketing that are out there, and they're all, I'm not saying and then they're not valid. I'm not saying partnership should be your only strategy, but all these come with their own inherent kind of flaws. Creating heaps of content and branding is a big investment of time. Learning or sourcing new skills is a resource piece that again takes time and effort. Right, 10x programs, hit 100K in a month. I'm not going to get on my soapbox here because it's very easy for me to do this, but there are so many of those out there. Cold calling and prospecting, time, effort, hassle, that credibility piece isn't necessary we want to be. And then we have networking and ad hoc referrals, which can be inconsistent. Now, you might be surprised to see that there, because partnerships and what I'm talking about is all about referrals. But there's a big difference between getting referrals on an ad hoc basis and actually really working strategically with people on a partnership channel. Before we go any further, I'm just going to define that a little bit more. So referral partners can be anyone and anyone. It's your clients, it's your customers, it's your friends, it's your colleagues. And the nature of that means that both the quality and the consistency of those referrals can be varying and unquantifiable. The point about having a strategic partner is that it's targeted. It's people where there's a real congruence with your brand, which means that the results you receive, whether it's direct leads or increased engagement or profile, is regular, reliable, both in terms of quantity and in terms of quality. And more importantly than that, it's a scalable process as well. But in order to do that, you need to have a process. And that process will help deliver you high quality leads that match your target market on a consistent and scalable volume with less haggling on price or shopping around, and more importantly, a shorter scale sales cycle. So whether you're looking to grow or whether you're looking to go, partnerships can really work with you. But to do that, you need a framework. So like any trainer, consultant, I have my own framework. And that's based around dance, because I like to have a bit of fun in business. If you're not enjoying it, you're not doing it right. And so my partnership framework is all based around dance. So discover, assemble, nurture, connect, and engage. And that's the five moves that I'm going to take your hands and onto the dance floor and walk you through over the next kind of half an hour or so. So what I will say before the outset is the great thing about a partnership strategy is none of it is rocket science. It's not like the dark arts of SEOs where you're beholden to an algorithm. This is not much has fundamentally changed from the traditional word of mouth when there was no such thing as email or Google or letters even. It was just you and the local people that you knew. Not much has changed. We just need to be more strategic about it and utilize the more modern technologies that are at our hands. So hopefully everything here is going to be common sense and things you can go and take away and use in your business right from the outset. So we're going to move on to discovery. And I liken discovery to kind of, on the music analogy, of what's the music that you like? Well, what dance floor are you going to? You need to really understand these bits before you can really have a successful partner program. And there's two stages to this. The first piece is who's your ideal client. And So many people I know avoid niching. They'll say any small business owner or anyone's my client. And the trouble with that, both from a marketing perspective, it's very hard to be targeted, but from a partner perspective, if you're looking to generate trust quickly and really demonstrate value, then if you're too broad in who your customers are, then it's very hard to really demonstrate that value and distinguish what that value is. And so absolutely being nailed on that is really key. If you're one of those people that is nervous about niching your business and being too defined, don't think of this as changing your whole business strategy. Just think of your partner approach maybe as a marketing campaign. And so which partner demographic am I going to target for this particular marketing campaign when I'm looking to reach out to partners? So really important to get that niching down first. From there, we can look at who our ideal partner is. And there's a longer piece of work we go on this, but if you want kind of a nice simple process for getting a short list of who your ideal partners can be, then an easy process to do is to literally just brainstorm, what else are my target market buying? And I would do this away from the office, go out where you feel most creative, go for a walk or get away from the desk and just have a bit of a brainstorm on everything else your partners are buying. Your target market is buying. And then once you've got, and not just buying, where are they hanging out? Are there places like startups to stand up where they are? And then run back through that list and think who's most congruent. Which one of these partners are going to be having conversations with their clients or members or customers that are relevant to the product or service that I'm offering? And that's a nice, real easy tip to come up with a few kind of short list of people who you could potentially partner with. From there is where the real magic happens, and you need to look for something called the real why. Now, so many people, when they're looking at their partnership channel or they're looking at referrals, really focus on a financial reward, some kind of commission or referral on the back end. Now, while that absolutely is essential, in my mind, it makes it a commercial relationship, which makes it more likely to be an ongoing one. There's an emotional reason why people will often want to refer to you. There's a stat, and I think it was Grant LeBoff, who was a speaker a couple of Fridays ago, right here at Startup Stand Up, mentioned that 95% of all our decision making is actually subconscious. And that the 5% conscious bit is actually that kind of the alibi to let us buy into that decision. I liken the financials to that 5% alibi. The real why is the piece why your partner will really want to engage with you. And this is that there are people out there where the product or the service that you offer not only adds value to someone's audience, but it adds value in such a way that it makes them look better in their audience's eyes. It could be that it directly enhances a product or service, their product or service. It could just be that it improves their reputation in their customers' eyes. But there will be people out there where they've got that, and it is such a good fit. Sam, I'm going to come to you as an example here. Actually, obviously, you help people get their SEIS funding status, and you do it in record timing by some of the recent results. That's where someone like Connected, who start stand-up partner with, who kind of match people looking for funding and investments, they would be an ideal partner. Not necessarily because you could offer that service to their startups, which you could, but actually that improves the overall product or service that Connect are offering, because they can turn those funding rounds quicker, which essentially is what they're judged on. And so it's finding as many people you could partner with, but finding those ones where the real congruence lies is really key in forming and establishing long-lasting partnerships. And so once you've got that shortlist, I really encourage you to just spend some time thinking about those real whys. Once you've done that, the conversation becomes so much easier to have with your partners. And we'll come on to how you actually engage them at this end piece. So we know who our ideal clients are for our partnerships. We know who our ideal partners are. The next thing we need to do is assemble the pieces for our partnership strategy. I liken this to the sound, the setup, the speakers, all the behind the stage stuff. It's no good having perfect partners in place if actually you're not set up ready to receive them. I'm going to keep coming back to trust all the way through this presentation because it's vital. And this behind the scenes setup piece, while it won't necessarily win new partners, it is absolutely vital in maintaining partnerships, in delivering that consistent level of service that will ensure that your partners want to continue working with you and don't look elsewhere. And I'm going to very quickly touch on 3 aspects of this. The first one being systems and processes. Having clearly defined processes so that both your partners are being dealt with in a consistent way, but more importantly, their audience is being dealt with in a consistent way is absolutely vital. Whether you know this, whether it's documented or whether it's actually on a kind of project management thing, absolutely making sure there's a consistent level of service is critical. The next thing I'm going to move on to is tracking. And now, no, not racetracks, but this is it's a drier bit of the partnership chat here, so I'm trying to make it a bit more exciting with fast cars. Tracking and reporting of data is absolutely crucial. If your partners are providing you leads on a consistent basis, then understanding where they are in that journey at all times, so that if your partner wants to know, you're able to tell them quickly and efficiently, is absolutely crucial. Now, this stuff is pretty easy to do through most CRM systems, but I've seen so many people do it badly. And when they do, trust is eroded straight away, and I can tell that from experience. When I've worked with partners and I've said, oh, what about so-and-so? I spoke to them and they said they mentioned you, and the person couldn't tell me where they were, then it says one of 2 things. Either they're dishonest because they're not tracking the leads because they don't want to pay out the reward on the back end, or they're a bit incompetent. Now, either way is not a good look for your partnerships. It's not a way to build trust. So having this tracking piece in place of understanding where your partner's audience are in a customer journey, and then when they become customers ongoing, is absolutely vital. The other see what I did there with the handle piece, yeah. I'm going to talk about lead handling, and this is about when you're running partnerships. Look, bit of a newsflash here. Typically, when you sign up with a new partner, you think everything's going to be amazing, and typically, apologies, I realised I had my heater on in the background, so there was a funny noise. That was it. The shop isn't always the warmest on a cold February morning. Your partnerships are unlikely to be quite as successful as you imagine they are straight from the bat. They're just not. We're optimistic, so we imagine that the leads are going to start flowing in at a huge rate right from the get-go. I'm sure we've all had partnerships like that, and then they've been a bit underwhelming at the start. However, sometimes they do go well. Sometimes they go better than you could possibly have expected. And so making sure that you've got the capability to be able to handle things if things do go as well as they possibly can is vital. And this is a more common problem than you might actually think. I'm going to use an example of when we worked in the membership space, and we worked with a national, global sales data and credit checking provider, a very well respected brand. And we ran a campaign both to our members and to our prospect database where they could get an element of free sales data. And so we thought, brilliant, great new member benefit. They're going to love it and pass us referrals. And then we're going to get a whole load of our prospects engaging with us and looking to buy membership off the back of this great deal that we're giving them for free. And the idea was that we sent the email out, people would just click on it, and then their details would go straight off to the company in question, who would give them a call within 2 days to sort them out with their free data. The trouble was the email campaign went as well as we expected, and the national provider couldn't cope with it. And so we had people not getting callbacks for 2 weeks. So within that time, they were contacting us, upset with the fact that they couldn't either access their new member benefit, so we had unhappy members, or the fact that they were non-members that couldn't access this thing. So it had the exact opposite effect of what the partnership should have done. And it never really recovered from that point because we lost trust in them. So while I'm saying absolutely be a bit realistic about the expectations of what a partnership can deliver. Make sure that you've planned for the best, because the worst thing in the world is that you miss an opportunity because you've not set up behind the scenes in such a way that enables you to take advantage of it. Okay, so we know where we're heading. It's all set up right and correct. The next thing that we need to do in a really perfect partnership program is look at nurturing. Oh, sorry. And by nurturing, I mean, how are we engaging and communicating with our partners on an ongoing basis? It's really about strengthening the relationships and making sure that trust that's built right from the outset continues all the way through. So many people don't do this. So many people will focus so much on bringing their partners in that they don't then kind of look after them and communicate with them on an ongoing basis afterwards. And this can be a real range of things that you can do. But the most important thing is to make sure that you're always adding value to your partners. There is such a thing as over communication. So before you do it, always think, am I adding value in this? But typically most people don't do this often enough. So I'm going to run through just a few examples of things that you can do to keep your partners engaged. One of them is around partner planning. So this is the number one reason why I see partnerships fail badly, and often with a bit of resentment thrown in, is where the expectations haven't been set right at the very outset. So it might be a fun thing. It might be the most fun thing to do when you're kind of having those initial conversations and you're getting all excited about the opportunity there. But it's absolutely crucial to just set out long-term and short-term goals with your partners. Never assume that you're on the same page. Get it down, have those shared things down, and make sure that that's set out right from the get-go. The next piece we can look at is reporting. So all that tracking we did that I spoke about before, make sure you're communicating that to your partners on an ongoing basis. Let them know what's happening in their leads. Don't wait for them to ask you. Be proactive about it. And make sure you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Pick a day in the month. On the 5th of the first Monday or the 5th of the month, we'll let your partners know about everything that's going on, both with prospects or any people they've already sent over to you. Make sure you've got some general value add comms in that mix as well. So maybe it's a newsletter if you've got a big partner database and you've got enough value to add. Maybe it's actually just sending something of value to them once in a while that's relevant to them. I think Ollie, I know that you, with your partners on the R&D business, it was looking if there's a change in legislation or there's a particular different types of claims they've gone through, then they've let their partners know about that because it'll help them to refer more people. So there's all sorts of different things you can do in that generalized piece. Just make sure it's always adding value. Reviews. So even if you're speaking to your partners on a day-to-day basis about the kind of the transactional and what's going on in the partnership, make sure you set time aside to actually do separate reviews where you assess the partnership based back on those things you set out in the planning piece, and where you actually find a little bit more about what's going on in their business. Because so often when you actually just stop and speak to someone about what's going on in their business, new opportunities arise for collaboration and direct sales. Also, what you'll find when you do this piece is there may be some little niggles that within the partnership that aren't quite going well. And your partner, they're not going bad enough that your partner would phone you up out the blue or send an email to go, you know what, this isn't really working. But actually in a more formal structured environment, it's a sort of little thing that they might bring up and you can resolve before it becomes a bigger issue. Again, just making sure that trust is there. Ad hoc. So yes, absolutely pick up the phone, speak to your partners if you feel like it. But you can what you can do with these ad hoc ones is actually add some structure behind them. So if you're doing all the tracking and reporting of people's activity, if someone's had a really good month or a really bad month or a really good quarter or bad quarter, depending on how you're monitoring your partners, pick up the phone to them. Find out why they've done so well. Find out if that's something that's repeatable both with them or with other partners who are like them. Take the lessons learned and move and see where you can spread that right across your business. Similarly, if someone's had a bad month or a not as good month, is there a reason behind that? Is there more support they need, or has something changed in their business so that you know what's going on and you can kind of plan and structure more accordingly? And as I said, I'll come back to that again. Always adding value, always adding value. There's so much more in this piece around onboarding and all sorts, but there's just a few ideas of things that you should be doing with your partners on an ongoing basis. So we know who our partners are. We're all set up to handle their leads and track and report. We've got our comms in place. The most important thing now is about that connection. It's about getting our partners to actually connect their audience to us. And this is where so many people kind of leave it up to the partner, because they think, well, they know their audience, they know what to do. The thing is, they don't know your business. They don't know what you know. And so many of the things that you think are common sense, you think are common sense because you've got years of experience selling what you sell. You know your product inside out. And so it's absolutely vital that you give your partners the benefit of your own expertise so that they're able to do what you want them to do much easier, which is provide you leads. And there's a few ways of doing this. So the first thing that you need to make sure of is that it's absolutely really easy for your partner to do what you want them to do. We live in a world where we are so busy, right? Well, none of us, I don't think, are complaining because we've got too much time on our hands. And that means that we've all become inherently lazy. And I don't mean sitting around on the sofa lazy. What I mean by this is that if something isn't easy for us to do, if it's not part of our core activities, we just won't do it. And it's not that we don't want to do it, it's just if it takes too much brain power, we go, right, I'll get to that, and it gets put on the to-do list, the ever-increasing to-do list that we all have. And so you need to make sure that you're making it so easy for your partners to refer you that they just do it, that it becomes nature, second nature. And there's two aspects to this. There's internal materials, and what I mean by internal materials is stuff for your partners. So particularly if they're working in a more face-to-face environment, if you're an advisory business, for example, and your partners are in an advisory space, then maybe they're dealing with their customers on a one-to-one basis. Well, then actually give them the tools to listen out to when it's relevant to recommend your product. What are the things that the customers might say or do that's the perfect time to be referring you? All that kind of common sense stuff I mentioned is in your head that you inherently know when to listen out for because you know the value of your product. Get that down on some cheat sheets for your partners. So many people don't do this, and they either don't recognize the value that you have in your mind, or they're finding the kind of teaching their partners to suck eggs. And all it's about is how you position it. So mention to your partners, look, we thought you might find this useful, our other partners have, and give people those, whether it's positioning statements or cheat sheets or whatever it may be, give your partners the kind of the benefit of your experience. An external kind of speak, yeah, that's what you imagine. That's template emails, it's flyers, it's social posts, it's all that stuff that's customer facing that they can send to their audience. Make it really easy for them to do that. In all of this, remember that there's a team involved. So coming back to that internal piece, you might be speaking with a business owner who's super entrepreneurial and really gets it. Maybe their member of their team aren't. So always remember that level of support that you provide, go right down to the most base level. I think in the session, in this morning's session, Ollie, you mentioned something about keeping it with website visitors, almost treating them as though they're stupid kind of thing. And that's almost the approach you want to take here with your partners in a very respectful way, I would add, but kind of really give them absolutely idiot guides to what you need to do. Make sure that what you provide is in the right format. And by format, and I put bespoke up there as well about tone, is do the hard work for them. Don't send people materials that you would send out as if you were doing it direct. So switch it so that it's coming from your partner, so that it sounds like it's coming from them. Do all the heavy lifting for them so that they don't have to. They're much more likely to do it. They're much more likely to want to work with you as a partner ongoing. And by feeling bespoke, I mean, if you're working with a partner and their audience is in a particular niche, then tailor your message for that. It's quite easy for you to drop in a specific testimonial or change a few sentences. It's much better for you to do that than them. And the more thought and care you take over this, the more likely your partners are to A, do the activity, B, work with you ongoing, and C, refer you to other partners. We used to send out, I've probably sent out thousands of emails on other people's behalf, other people's products to other people's customers, because that's what my business used to do. And I can tell you now, every single time I had to either take an email or send an email on to someone else to change I and we's into, change the tone of that email into it coming from us. Although it was a quick, easy job, it just used to annoy me. And you don't want your partners feeling annoyed. You want your partners loving you. So make it really easy for them. Take that extra time and effort and make sure you tailor the support that you do for them. On that note, make sure it's on brand. Your ideal partners will be similar brands to you anyway, but just make sure that while it's on brand for them, it's on brand for you, and then it just needs to be that nice match. It needs to be a congruent journey throughout. And make sure you're delivering your content at the right time. And this is about understanding, helping your partners to understand when the right time to refer your product or your service is. And where you can offer a real tip here, where you know you've got a real strong partner, and it keeps on that making it easy, is see if there's opportunities for you to actually be built into people's processes. So I'm going to pick on Ollie again here, just because I've worked with him and so I know what his processes were. Ollie partners with a lot of accountants with his R&D tax credit business, and with them we spoke about actually building in a couple of questions about whether R&D would be relevant into an accountant's onboarding strategy when they take on a new client. Because if that new client answered the question in a certain way, then it meant it was very easy for the accountant to then go, oh, we work with a dedicated partner in this space, shall I make an introduction? You will know there will be certain triggers or moments in time where your product or service is absolutely bang on. Maybe it's a life event. Maybe it's a certain stage of someone's business. They're taking on staff or they've moved office. Maybe it's a certain point in the tax year. If you know when those certain moments or triggers are, make sure you're communicating those to your partners and see if there's any way that you can be really ingrained in someone's business. I'm going to go back to Sam's example. I used the example again of SEIS funding. Well, that's something that could be easy. That's something that there's a very precise point in someone's startup journey where they need that. So for him, it's about capturing that and moving through. So the more you can be ingrained in the processes, the more likely it's the results are going to happen. And yeah, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Just keep it easy at all times. And so finally, we look at the opportunity. We look at how to engage, how to actually go out there and engage our partners. If you've got the confidence that the support that you've got in place is going to absolutely deliver for these partners, and you really understand the reason why they want to partner with you and the value that you're going to deliver, then actually the going and getting partners bit that people often get hooked up on is easier than you might think. And I'm going to give one top tip for kind of positioning, and then another top tip for how actually to go and get your partners. The first tip on kind of the positioning piece is you should never have to sell a partnership opportunity. If when you're making an outreach to someone, it feels like you're pitching or you're selling, then stop, because you probably are. It means you've either not really identified the partner right, or you've not uncovered that real why piece from the start properly or positioned it. If you're unsure, what I would always do is I would always write the message. I then say it out loud, literally speak that message. And if as you're saying it, you kind of feel a bit like, oh, it feels really salesy. well, then it is. Stop and keep tweak it, keep writing it until when you say it, you go, yeah, that sounds conversational, nice. This sounds like a genuine partnership opportunity. So that's my first tip on that in terms of the approach. A tip in terms of getting first partners on board. In fact, I'm going to give two actually. The first one is look for someone within your network who fits your ideal partner type and ask them for feedback on your program. Ask them for feedback on both the pitch, the kind of the approach, but the program as a whole. Two things will happen here. Well, three. First, they're highly likely to say yes to giving you feedback because you know them and people like to help. Secondly, is that you'll get that really critical feedback from who your target market is, which again, that's something that came up on this morning's call. But the third thing is that if it's actually all great and it's a brilliant partner program, well, then you're probably going to get a partner at the end of it all as well, because why wouldn't they? Second kind of piece on the approach thing is to look for referrals for new partners at a starting point. Looking for direct referrals can sometimes have mixed results because people are referring someone who they know you're going to pitch to them. When you ask your network for referrals to partners, it is that much softer that the response rate is huge. So be targeted, use things like LinkedIn, find your ideal partners and see who else you know that's connected to them and ask for an introduction, because that introduction is for a partner opportunity, not a sales pitch. You'll get a really high hit rate. Often more than enough for you to start working with people, get some case study, and then when you're going out and approaching partners cold, actually you're approaching them with a proven partnership model. And that trust gets built that much quicker, not from a shared connection, but from previous successes with people just like them. And that's how you can scale a partnership program really quickly and effectively. So, I said, keep it easy and build that trust. So that's it. That's a whistle-stop tour of how you can kind of master that partnership dance and really take people through a journey of absolutely understanding what's in it for them, delivering that value on a consistent basis, and essentially making it really easy to do what we want them to do, which is add value to absolutely everyone in that ecosystem. So I appreciate there's a lot there. If you've got any questions, fire them my way. I'm more than happy to jump on kind of a partner discovery call with anyone that wants to know a little bit more about this. Final thing from me would be, if you found value in what I do in this, then please connect on LinkedIn, and and if you like what I've done, then a little LinkedIn testimonial is always appreciated. So appreciate that was quite whistle stop, but yeah, I wanted to get it done and open the floor to questions. Specifically about where partnerships might work for your business or any of the specific aspects. So yeah, over to the floor.
Right, thank you very much, Dave. That was brilliant. Any questions, anyone? Andrew.
Sorry, Ollie, I spoke over you. Apologies. Not a question, really. Sort of a statement and then a request versus a question, Dave. The statement, by the way, is spot on. Couldn't agree more with everything you've said through my whole experience when I used to work at Microsoft and work with thousands of partners, and now in my role at Whitespace, where I lead on all of the commercial outreach for the company. Strategic partners, referral partners are a core part of how Whitespace goes to market. Everything you said, completely agree through bitter experience. And so big thumbs up from me on that. I'll give a worked example. Not to sort of say how brilliant Whitespace is at this, but more to demonstrate what you've just been talking about very briefly. We knew that we needed to engage with significant technology giants, IBM, Google, Microsoft, and so on. But we're a tiny, small company of, at the time, 20 people. We're a bit bigger now. So we sat down with a fairly senior guy at IBM, and we spent the whole initial set of meetings that we had with him basically learning all about his organization, where IBM were challenged, how they go to market, What does a good partner look like? Yada, la, 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 la. Didn't once talk about what Whitespace does, didn't go in with any asks. And that paid off in spades, because then the responses we got back from the country manager at IBM, who's a big sponsor and supporter of Whitespace now, was that, guys, what we loved about you versus some massive companies that were coming into us is you didn't come in and sell. You didn't come in and just say, this is what we want from you. And he didn't spend 90% of the conversation talking about Whitespace. It was all about what you could do for us and trying to understand us as a business. Anyway, roll forward now. We've got a near enough £1 million contract with IBM. They contract us to deliver services for them. We're a strategic partner of IBM, and they just throw so much love at us. It's crazy. But actually, it's true for Google Cloud and Microsoft as well, to be fair. So that's sort of, I hope, reinforcing all the points you are making, and also to say, and it takes a lot of work. It's not like we've got it in the bag. We do everything that you put on your slide about developing comms for them, always checking in, always delivering value, always recognizing that partnerships flow both ways. It's not all about what I want from you, full stop. Here's the ask then, or request. Dave, one of the things we do, and one of the programs we run for IBM, is we connect technology startups with large global corporates that want to collaborate with them around a particular problem set. Candidly, a lot of these corporates do not know how to partner well with early stage tech startups. They are used to partnering with vendors, established businesses with established capabilities and so on. And they really do need help. Now, we have built a very significant community of corporates who practice collaborative and open innovation. I'd love for you, if it's in your, in your interest to do so, to take this presentation but turn it on its head and deliver it into corporate teams. How can they better partner with small tech startups? Because candidly, they don't do it well. And it's not that they lack positive intent, they just don't know how to do it. So that's the request, one to take away and think about, and Ollie can connect us if that's of interest. Anyway, I'll stop there because otherwise I'll take up all the talking time. But as I say, really good, everything, completely agree.
Cheers, thank you. And yeah, we'd love to, but you touched on something there that actually is a really valid point about partnering upwards. When I was running a membership organization, there was kind of 4 of us in the team, and we were partnering with global brands. And as small business owners or startups, we can sometimes be nervous of doing that. And we kind of think, oh, why are they going to want to partner with me? Do I do it? But actually, and you've touched on it there where they don't know how, never underestimate the value that you can bring. And at that early stage, particularly that early stage of partnership discussion, focusing on the value that you can bring in terms of a more consultative piece, like you did with them, asking IBM questions about them, it is huge. There will be a reason why they're talking to you, and it's never ever underestimate the value that you bring as being someone smaller and more agile and with a finger on the pulse. It's imposter syndrome's a thing, right? But there are times to kind of put on the big boy pants and shrug it off, and it's when you're in those partnership meetings, really go in there and understand the value, be respectful of the size of their organization, but understand the value that you can deliver into that. So yeah, thank you, Andrew, brilliant.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Dave. Anyone else? Any additional questions from anyone? Gary, you normally got a question. Harry?
Yes, I've got a question for Dave, if I may. Dave, the communication, you touched on that and how important it was, and and also the interaction, how important it is for you to spend time trying to help communicate with your partner rather than just relying on them to provide what you want and sitting back and doing nothing. What do you do? And I don't have the experience of this when you're fortunate enough to secure an exciting and good partnership full of potential, and your new partner is too over enthusiastic, where maybe you're overcome, or maybe you're just taken up too much in perhaps vaguely irrelevant communication.
Oh, good question. So I think I'm gonna take it back a little earlier and go kind of setting expectations of communications and what to be expected is probably should be done at outset. But I appreciate that still might not make a difference if people then get super excited. Honest, open discussion. I think honesty is the best policy. So I would you can try and train them by kind of maybe not responding quite so quickly and maybe answering all 3 emails in one kind of thing if they're bombarding you or whatever it may be. But if it's really an issue, then I think honesty and just saying to them kind of like, look, we just need to. But you can position it kind of in the last thing I want to do is let you down and mismanage expectations, but this is where we're at the moment. So I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be able to communicate as rapidly with this level of volume or whatever it may be. If it's all essential stuff, then delegate, have a partnership manager. Even if it's consistent day-to-day stuff, then have a partnership manager. And that partnership manager doesn't have to be their full-time role. If you're a small team, have someone where part of their role is partnership manager. And that can just be that when they're sending an email out to someone with their partnership hat on, they change their email signature kind of thing. But having a dedicated partner role is a really good thing to have within your business, no matter its size anyway. So, but yeah, honesty is the best policy. If you can't have open, honest conversations with your partners, then who can you?
Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Any additional questions before Dave finishes up?
Right, I'm going to give a bonus tip. I'm going to give a top bonus tip then if there's no more questions.
Okay.
And that's start small. And what I mean by start small is if you find an ideal partner, it can be so easy to plan out world domination. Like, this is so exciting, we're going to go to here. But I've been involved so many times in partnerships that have fizzled out. And it's because the conversations have taken so long about getting anywhere that priorities change somewhere and people get dragged away and it never gets rekindled. Just do something. Even if it's a shared blog post, even if it's a live interview on their LinkedIn or whatever it may be, what's something small that you can just start doing? Because it serves two things. It shows that you see what they're actually like to work with and whether they're all kind of bluster or they will actually do stuff. But also it's a momentum builder. Once you start doing, you will continue doing. So a little bonus top tip is how can you just get going? Just
Dave.
done is better than perfect.
Gary?
Sorry, Dave, just a quick one. How would you relate this to fundraising and VCs, angels, etc.? And how would you relate it?
Well, I suppose, and I've had conversations with people like this before, in terms of a fundraising place, depending on what kind of round you're going for and things, actually having defined partner models in place, and the more ingrained they are, it's just additional routes to market. So there is a direct piece and kind of on company valuations around having these proven channels in place. Also from a profile point of view, if you can get the right partners, there's a huge kind of credibility by association piece, which comes back to that partnering up piece. So I suppose it's good business practice, full stop. But it's certainly stuff that can have a direct impact in both company valuation and people's perception of your funding, which I guess makes you more investable. Because you've got that more structured and that more rounded business approach. Is that kind of what you were getting at, Gary? Or
Yeah. I think it was just that when you go through that process, you can relate it a lot to funding anyway. So I suppose you take what you want from your slides. And
I look at everyone's business here. I said at the top of the call what we did last year with one of my businesses, worked with Dave over 4 sessions, and it was very, very good. And we've seen that partnership profile really blossom and turn into something. I look at all of your businesses on here, and I think I see partnership potential in all of them in some shape or form to some degree. So it is a reasonably inexpensive, but extremely effective way of getting going, getting traction and moving forward quite quickly. And building a community as well, like we built at Startup Stand Up, is great. Wouldn't you say, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Two things most close to my heart are community and collaboration. So yeah, couldn't agree more.
Excellent. Well, hands up. Thanks, Dave.